My fiancé said, I want to postpone the wedding. I'm not sure about us plus. My ex is in town and I deserve a closure. I said, let's be sure. Then I made it certain by canceling everything. Her uncertainty became very clear, but it was late. What's good, Reddit? Time to share a story that's been eating at me for months. Buckle up because this ride gets wild fast. So I, 32 male, and my fiancé is 29 female. Been together 3 years, engaged for 8 months. Let's call her Jessica. Thought I had my shit figured out, you know? Good job in finance, decent apartment, even got one of those engagement rings that didn't completely murder my savings account. Jessica seemed perfect at first. Smart, funny, ambitious marketing manager at some tech startup. We clicked hard and fast. Everything was smooth sailing until about 2 weeks ago, when she dropped a bomb that left me staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I missed all the warning signs. Jessica and I met through mutual friends at this rooftop party downtown. She was the type who commanded attention without trying too hard. Confident, but not obnoxious about it. We spent most of that night talking about everything from travel plans to conspiracy theories about why airplane food sucks so much. She laughed at my dumb jokes. I was impressed by her career ambitions, and by the end of the night, I knew I wanted to see her again. Those first 2 years were solid gold. We did the usual relationship progression. Sleepovers turned into spending weekends together, then moving in after year 2. She had her quirks, sure, but nothing that threw up red flags. Jessica was the type who needed everything planned out weeks in advance and got stressed when things didn't go according to schedule. I'm more of a go-with-the-flow guy, so it balanced out pretty well most of the time. The proposal happened last October at this Italian place she'd been wanting to try for months. Nothing crazy elaborate. I'm not the flash mob type of dude. Just a nice dinner, then a walk through the park where we had our first official date. When I got down on one knee, she cried those happy tears that made me feel like I'd finally done something right. She said yes before I even finished asking the question, which made me think I'd picked the perfect moment. Wedding planning started immediately after that. Jessica had Pinterest boards ready to go, like she'd been preparing for this moment since middle school. The venue, the dress, the flowers, the color scheme. She had opinions about everything. I mostly just nodded along and signed checks, figuring this was her day to shine, and my job was to show up looking decent and say, I do, at the right moment. We picked a date for this coming June, sent save the dates to everyone, put deposits down on everything. Her parents were thrilled, my folks were happy, and for about 6 months everything felt like it was falling into place exactly how it should. I was working extra hours to make sure we had enough saved up for the wedding and a decent honeymoon. She was diving deep into wedding planning details that I pretended to care about, but honestly found pretty boring. Then last month, things started getting weird in ways I should have paid more attention to. Looking back now, I can see all the little things that should have tipped me off. But when you're in the middle of it, trusting someone you're about to marry, you explain away the red flags instead of paying attention to them. That's the mistake that almost cost me everything. Jessica started getting distant around mid-March. Not in any obvious way that would make you think cheating immediately, but in that subtle way where conversations feel forced and she's always on her phone during dinner. She'd blame it on work stress. Apparently, they were launching some big campaign and everyone was putting in crazy hours. Made sense at the time, since her company was always pushing these aggressive deadlines. The sex dropped off too, which should have been a massive red flag. Went from a couple times a week to maybe once every 2 weeks, and even then it felt like she was going through the motions. When I brought it up, she'd get defensive about how tired she was and how much pressure she was under with work and wedding planning. Fair enough, I thought. Planning a wedding is supposed to be stressful as hell, and I didn't want to be the guy who pressures his fiancée for sex during an already stressful time. She started working late more often than she ever had before. Like, a lot more often. Used to be home by 7 most nights, but suddenly she's rolling in at 9 or 10, claiming client dinners and emergency meetings that couldn't be postponed. The marketing world must be more intense than I realized, because apparently every crisis required immediate attention and couldn't wait until morning. I started eating dinner alone most nights, which felt weird after years of cooking together. Her phone habits changed completely too. Jessica used to be pretty casual about it, would leave it on the coffee table, didn't care if I grabbed it to check the time or whatever, but she started taking it everywhere, even to the bathroom. Set up a passcode for the first time in the 3 years I'd known her. When I joked about it, she said something vague about company policy requiring password protection for work emails. Should have pressed her on that, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. The wedding planning conversations got weird too. She'd bring up potential changes to our plans. Nothing major, Just little tweaks here and there that felt off. Maybe we should push the date back a few weeks? Maybe the venue was too small for what we were envisioning? Maybe we needed to rethink the guest list and cut some people? Every conversation ended with, "But we don't need to decide right now," and her looking relieved when I agreed to table the discussion for later. I started noticing she'd get text messages that would make her smile in this secretive way. But when I'd ask who was texting, she'd just say, "Work stuff," or "Just the girls." The smile didn't look like work stuff, though. It was the kind of smile you get when someone you're into is flirting with you. But what did I know? Maybe her coworkers were just really funny. The real kicker was when she started bringing up her ex Tyler more often. Not in any obvious way, just casual mentions that felt forced and out of nowhere. "Oh, Tyler used to take me to a place like this." Or, "Tyler always said the best sushi was in this neighborhood." Tyler was her college boyfriend, the one she dated for 2 years before they broke up when he moved to Seattle for work. She'd barely mentioned him the entire time we'd been together, but suddenly he was popping up in random conversations like some ghost from her past. I should have connected the dots sooner, but I was busy with my own work stuff and figured she was just stressed about the wedding. Turns out I was half right. She was stressed about the wedding, just not in the way I thought. 2 weeks ago, Jessica came home from another one of her late work sessions, looking like she had something important to discuss. I was on the couch watching Netflix, and she turned off the TV and sat down facing me with that serious expression that means you're about to have a conversation with a capital C. "We need to talk about the wedding," she said, and my stomach immediately dropped because that phrase never leads anywhere good in any relationship. "What about it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual even though internal alarm bells were already going off like crazy. She took a deep breath like she was preparing to jump off a cliff. "I think we should postpone it. Just for a little while. Maybe until fall or even next year." I stared at her for a second, trying to process what she'd just said. "Postpone it? Everything's already booked. We sent invitations last month. People have made travel plans." I know," she said, running her hands through her hair in that way she does when she's nervous about something. "It's just, I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'm not sure we're ready. I'm not sure I'm ready." "Ready for what? We've been living together for over a year. Engaged for 8 months. What exactly aren't you ready for?" That's when she hit me with the real punch to the gut. "Tyler's moving back to town next month. He got transferred here for work, and we've been talking. Not about getting back together or anything," she added quickly when she saw my face change. "But I realized I never got proper closure with him. We just kind of ended things when he moved. There were things left unsaid. I felt like someone had dumped ice water over my head." "So you want to postpone our wedding to get closure with your ex?" "It's not just about Tyler," she said, but her voice got defensive in that way that meant it was definitely about Tyler. "I've been feeling uncertain about everything lately. About us. About getting married. About whether I'm making the right decision. I think I need some time to figure things out before we make this huge commitment." I sat there for probably a full minute, just staring at her, trying to wrap my head around what was happening. My fiancée, the woman I'd been planning to spend my life with, wanted to put our wedding on hold so she could have heart-to-heart conversations with her ex-boyfriend. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," I finally said, keeping my voice calm even though I was screaming internally. "You want to postpone our wedding? Tell our families and friends that the plans they've made are canceled? Lose thousands of dollars in deposits? All so you can chat with Tyler and figure out if you want to marry me? That's not... It's more complicated than that," she said, but she couldn't look me in the eye. "No, it's really not complicated at all," I replied. "It's actually pretty simple. You're having second thoughts about marrying me because your ex is coming back to town." She started getting teary-eyed. "I just need to be sure, okay? I don't want to marry you and then have regrets later. Isn't it better to be completely certain before we make this commitment?" And that's when something clicked in my brain. Not anger, exactly, but this cold, clear understanding that I was looking at someone who had already made her choice. She just hadn't figured out how to tell me yet. "You're absolutely right," I said, which clearly surprised her because she was expecting me to argue or get upset. "We should definitely be sure." After Jessica went to bed that night, claiming she was exhausted from the emotional conversation, I sat in the living room for about 3 hours, just thinking. Not about trying to change her mind or win her back, but about what her words actually meant versus what she thought she was saying. Here's the thing. When someone who's supposed to marry you in 2 months tells you they need to postpone the wedding to get closure with an ex, they're not asking for time to think. They're asking for permission to cheat with extra steps. The closure conversation is just a way to test the waters without technically crossing any lines yet. Jessica thought she was being smart about it. Keep me on the hook as a backup plan while she explores whether the grass is greener with Tyler. If things work out with him, she can break up with me and frame it as realizing we weren't right for each other during our break. If Tyler disappoints her again, she can come back and act like she chose me after careful consideration. But I've seen this movie before. My buddy Marcus went through the exact same thing 2 years ago. His girlfriend wanted space to think, right around the time her high school sweetheart moved back to town. 3 months later, she was posting vacation pictures with the guy, while Marcus was still holding on to hope that she'd choose him. By the time he realized he was being played, she'd already moved in with the other dude and was talking about marriage. I wasn't about to be Marcus. I wasn't about to sit around like some pathetic backup option while my fiancée went on dates with her ex and called it closure. The more I thought about it, the more I realized Jessica had probably already been talking to Tyler for weeks, maybe months. All those late work sessions, the secretive phone calls, the sudden mentions of him in conversation, she'd been laying the groundwork for this moment. The only question was whether she'd already crossed physical lines or was just working up to it. Either way, I was done. Completely done. Around 2 a.m., I made a decision that would have seemed crazy to me 12 hours earlier, but now felt like the most logical thing in the world. I was going to cancel the wedding myself. Not postpone it, cancel it. If Jessica wanted to be sure about us, I'd help her be very sure indeed. I spent the next hour making a list of everything that needed to be canceled and started researching our contracts to see what we'd lose in deposits. It was going to be expensive, but not as expensive as marrying someone who saw me as a consolation prize while she shopped around for something better. The plan was simple. I'd handle all the cancellations myself, quietly and efficiently, while she was at work over the next few days. When everything was taken care of, I'd let her know that her uncertainty had been resolved for both of us. The next morning, Jessica acted like nothing had happened, made coffee, chatted about her day ahead, kissed me goodbye like she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb on our relationship the night before. She probably thought I was going to spend the day sulking or trying to convince her to change her mind. Instead, I called in sick to work and got busy. First stop, the venue. The Riverside Event Center was our biggest expense and the hardest to cancel, but I'd read our contract carefully when we signed it. We had a 60-day cancellation clause that would cost us the full deposit, but at least wouldn't leave us on the hook for the entire bill. I drove over there in person because I wanted to handle this face-to-face. The events coordinator, Linda, was confused when I walked in alone asking about cancellation. Is everything all right? Is Jessica feeling okay? Jessica's fine, I said. We've just decided to call off the wedding. Life happens, you know. Linda had probably seen this before because she didn't push for details. Just pulled out the paperwork, went over the terms, and processed the cancellation. We lost the $3,000 deposit, but considering the full cost would have been $15,000, I counted it as a win. Next was the caterer. Same story. Lost the deposit, but got out of the main contract. The photographer was actually cool about it. Said she'd had a cancellation for the same weekend and could book another couple, so she only kept half our deposit. The florist was where things got interesting. When I explained that we were canceling, she asked if I wanted to keep the bridal bouquet that Jessica had already picked out and paid for. A lot of guys in your situation don't think about this, but it's already arranged and paid for. You could have it delivered somewhere else if you wanted. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. That gave me an idea. Actually, yes. I'd like to have it delivered to Jessica at her office on Friday with a note. What would you like the note to say? Just put, hope this helps with your closure. The ex-fiancé. The florist tried not to smile. You got it. The cake was trickier. We'd already done the tasting and Jessica had been obsessing over the details for weeks. The baker was understanding but firm about keeping the deposit. The DJ was similar. Professional but not willing to refund anything we'd already put down. By Thursday evening, I'd canceled everything except the honeymoon trip to Costa Rica. That one I kept, figuring I could use a vacation after this mess was over. Changed the booking to a single occupancy and decided I'd enjoy some solo beach time while Jessica figured out her closure situation. Jessica had no idea what was happening. She'd been coming home late every night that week, claiming more work emergencies. Wednesday night, she got a phone call around 9 p.m. that made her step out onto the balcony to talk. When she came back in, she seemed distracted and happy, in a way that confirmed everything I suspected about who was really on the other end of that call. Thursday night, she brought up the wedding postponement again. Have you thought more about what we discussed? About taking some time to be sure? Yeah, I've thought about it a lot, I said. You're absolutely right. We should be completely certain before making such a big commitment. She looked relieved. So, you're okay with postponing? I'm okay with being sure, I said, which wasn't technically a lie. Friday was when everything came together beautifully. I took another sick day Friday because I wanted to be home when the fireworks started. Jessica left for work at her usual time, giving me a particularly affectionate goodbye kiss that felt like guilt wrapped in fake sweetness. Around 11 a.m., my phone started buzzing with confused texts from family members. My mom, did you and Jessica change the wedding date? I got a call from the venue saying it's been canceled. My sister, what's going on? The photographer just emailed asking if we want our deposit back. Jessica's mom, honey, I'm so confused. The florist called asking about delivery instructions for Jessica's bouquet. Is everything all right? I didn't respond to any of them. I wanted to let Jessica deal with the questions first. Around noon, my phone rang. Jessica, calling from work, and she sounded panicked. What the hell did you do? She said without even saying hello. Good afternoon to you too, babe. How's work going? Don't play games with me. I just got flowers delivered to my office with a note calling you my ex-fiancé. My coworkers are asking questions, and my mom called saying the venue contacted her about cancellations. What is going on? Oh, that. Yeah, I took care of the wedding situation. You said you wanted to be sure about us, so I made sure we both could be very clear about where we stand. You canceled our wedding? Her voice went up about 3 octaves. I helped you with your uncertainty problem. Now you can focus completely on getting that closure with Tyler without any pesky wedding obligations getting in the way. There was silence for about 10 seconds. Then, are you insane? I never said I wanted to cancel the wedding. I said postpone it. Postpone, cancel. Same difference, really. Either way, you're not sure you want to marry me, and I'm not interested in being someone's backup plan while they figure out if they want to get back together with their ex. That's not what this is about. Really? Then call Tyler right now and tell him you're not interested in closure, that you're committed to marrying me in June as planned. Put it on speaker so I can hear. Another long silence. That's not fair. You can't just make ultimatums like that. I'm not making ultimatums, Jessica. I'm just resolving your uncertainty. You wanted space to figure out if you want to marry me. Well, now you have all the space in the world, and the answer is really clear. You don't get to marry me. She started crying, not the gentle tears from when I proposed, but angry, frustrated sobs. You can't do this. We can fix this. I'll call everyone back. We'll rebook everything. With what money? I already canceled everything and forfeited the deposits. And even if we hadn't lost the money, why would I want to marry someone who needs to date her ex-boyfriend to figure out if I'm worth committing to? I wasn't going to date him. It was just about closure. Right. Closure. Got it. Well, here's some closure for you. We're done. Pack your stuff and move out by Sunday. I'll be in Costa Rica for a week, and when I get back, I don't want to find any of your belongings here. You're going to Costa Rica without me? It's my vacation now. Figured I'd use the time to get some closure of my own. I hung up before she could respond. The next few hours were intense. My phone was blowing up with calls and texts from everyone in both our families wanting to know what happened. I crafted a simple response and sent it to everyone. Jessica decided she needed to explore things with her ex-boyfriend before she could commit to marriage. I decided that wasn't the kind of commitment I was interested in. The wedding is off. Jessica tried calling about 15 more times. When I didn't answer, she started texting, "Please come home so we can talk about this like adults. You're being completely unreasonable." I never said anything about dating Tyler. I can't believe you're throwing away 3 years together over a misunderstanding. My parents are asking questions and I don't know what to tell them. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind. This is embarrassing. That last text made me laugh out loud. She was embarrassed. I fired back. Not as embarrassing as having to explain to people that your fiancé needed to date her ex to figure out if she wanted to marry you. Around 6 p.m., she showed up at the apartment. I'd been expecting this, so I was ready. "We need to talk," she said as soon as I opened the door. "No, we really don't." "Yes, we do. You've completely misunderstood what I was trying to tell you." I stepped aside and let her in, but I didn't sit down. This wasn't going to be a long conversation. "Okay, explain it to me," I said. "Help me understand how asking to postpone our wedding so you can get closure with your ex-boyfriend isn't exactly what it sounds like." She launched into this whole speech about how she'd just been feeling uncertain about making such a big life decision, and how seeing Tyler again would help her realize that what we had was better. How it wasn't about choosing between us, but about being completely sure she was making the right choice. "So you need to date him to realize I'm better?" I asked. "It wouldn't be dating. It would just be talking, maybe hanging out a few times. Hanging out with your ex-boyfriend while you're engaged to me to make sure you want to marry me. Yes, number. Not hanging out like that. Just getting clarity. Jessica, do you hear yourself right now? You're literally describing dating your ex-boyfriend as a way to figure out if you want to marry me. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Use different words, because postponing our wedding to get closure with my ex sounds exactly like I want to see if I should get back together with Tyler instead of marrying you. She got quiet for a minute, probably realizing that there wasn't a way to spin this that didn't sound exactly like what it was. I just needed to be sure, she finally said in a small voice. And now you are sure. We're not getting married. That's not the kind of sure I meant. But it's the kind of sure you're getting. That's when Jessica finally dropped the mask and told me what was really going on. All the pretense and careful word choice went out the window. Fine. You want the truth? Yes. Tyler and I have been talking. He reached out a few months ago when he found out he was moving back here. We've been texting and calling, and yes, there are still feelings there. But I chose you. I said yes when you proposed. You chose me when Tyler wasn't an option. Now that he's back, you want to see if you made the right choice. Maybe. Is that so wrong? Shouldn't I be completely sure before I commit to spending my life with someone? And there it was. The honest truth she'd been dancing around for 2 weeks. You know what, Jessica? You're absolutely right. You should be completely sure. And now you can be, because you're not marrying me. Problem solved. She started crying again, but this time it felt manipulative rather than genuine. You're being cruel. I was trying to be honest with you about my feelings instead of just cheating or lying. You want credit for not cheating yet? That's a pretty low bar for relationship ethics. I never cheated. Right. You were just going to postpone our wedding so you could date your ex-boyfriend without technically cheating. Much better. I wasn't going to date him. What were you going to do then? Help me understand what getting closure with your ex looks like when you're engaged to someone else? She couldn't answer that, because we both knew exactly what it would have looked like. Dinner dates to catch up, long conversations about what went wrong in their relationship, maybe some drinks to process their feelings, and eventually, inevitably, the physical stuff that she could rationalize as just closure or saying goodbye properly. I'd seen this movie before. Hell, I'd probably been the Tyler in someone else's version of this story when I was younger and dumber. Pack your stuff, I said again. I'm leaving for Costa Rica on Sunday, and when I get back, I want you gone. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Tyler's place? Your parents? A hotel? Not my problem anymore. She left that night, but not before trying one last guilt trip about how I was throwing away something beautiful over a misunderstanding, and how I'd regret this when I realized what I'd lost. The only thing I'm losing, I told her, is a fiancé who thought I was so replaceable that she needed to comparison shop before settling for me. And honestly, that's not much of a loss. Sunday came, and Jessica's stuff was gone when I left for the airport. She'd cleared out her closet, her bathroom stuff, and the kitchen gadgets she'd brought when she moved in. The only thing she left was the engagement ring, sitting on the bathroom counter with no note. Costa Rica was incredible. Spent 7 days on the beach, reading books, surfing badly, and eating amazing food. Didn't think about Jessica or Tyler or any of the drama once. Just enjoyed being single and free and not having to worry about whether my partner was secretly wishing she was with someone else. The resort had this great bar right on the beach, and I got to talking with the bartender, Miguel, who'd been working there for 15 years. When I told him why I was there alone, he just nodded like he'd seen it before. American women, he said, shaking his head, always thinking the grass is greener somewhere else. My wife, she's from here. 20 years married, never once looked at another man. You know why? Because she understands what loyalty means. I spent a lot of time thinking about that conversation, about loyalty, about commitment, about what it means to choose someone and stick with that choice even when other options present themselves. When I got back, the apartment felt different, bigger somehow, more peaceful. I realized that for months I'd been walking on eggshells without fully recognizing it, trying not to say or do anything that might make Jessica more uncertain than she already was. The calls and texts from family had mostly died down, but I got a few check-ins from people wanting to make sure I was okay. Everyone seemed to understand that Jessica had been the one to blow things up, not me. Her own parents called to apologize and say they hoped I'd find someone who appreciated what I had to offer. Jessica tried reaching out a few more times over the next couple of weeks. First, it was angry texts about how I'd humiliated her and ruined her reputation. Then came the sad messages about how much she missed me and how she'd made a terrible mistake. Finally, she tried the practical approach, asking if we could at least talk about getting back together since she'd realized I was right, and Tyler wasn't what she thought he'd be. I didn't respond to any of them. Through mutual friends, I heard that things with Tyler had gone exactly as predictably as you'd expect. They'd had their closure conversations, which turned into dates, which turned into them sleeping together. But Tyler was the same guy he'd always been, charming but unreliable, making big promises about their future together while keeping his options open. After about a month of this, Tyler apparently told Jessica that while he'd enjoyed reconnecting, he wasn't ready for anything serious and thought they should just be friends. She'd burned her bridges with me for a guy who didn't even want her. According to my friend Mike, Jessica tried to spin the whole thing as her dodging a bullet because Tyler turned out to be a player, and how she'd learned so much about herself in the process. Nobody was buying it, though. Everyone could see exactly what had happened. She'd gambled on an ex and lost both the sure thing and the long shot. Update. It's been 6 months now, and I can honestly say that canceling the wedding was the best decision I've made in years. I'm dating someone new, a woman named Claire who's direct, honest, and would never in a million years think it was appropriate to postpone our relationship to get closure with an ex. Claire actually laughed when I told her the Jessica story. So she wanted to date her ex-boyfriend to make sure she wanted to marry you, and she's surprised that you said no? What kind of backwards logic is that? The kind of logic that made me realize I was about to marry the wrong person. Lucky for me, she said, and kissed me. We met at a coffee shop near my office. I'd been going there for months, just grabbing my morning coffee and heading to work. She worked there part-time while finishing her master's degree in social work. We started talking one day when she noticed I was reading a book about behavioral economics, and it turned out she'd written her thesis on similar topics. What I love about Claire is that she's completely different from Jessica in all the ways that matter. Where Jessica was always planning for some theoretical better future, Claire is present and engaged with what's happening now. Where Jessica needed constant validation from social media and attention from other guys, Claire is secure in who she is. Where Jessica saw relationships as transactions, Claire sees them as partnerships. Jessica tried one more time to reconnect about 4 months ago. She'd apparently been doing some therapy and wanted to apologize for how she'd handled things. Said she'd learned a lot about herself and realized she'd been scared of commitment and had sabotaged our relationship because of her own issues. I met her for coffee, mostly because I was curious to see if she'd gained any real insight, or if this was just another manipulation attempt. She'd clearly rehearsed what she wanted to say, took responsibility for her choices, admitted that she'd been unfair to me, acknowledged that asking to postpone the wedding was really asking for permission to cheat. All the right words, delivered with what seemed like genuine remorse. I know I messed up, she said. I know I hurt you and broke your trust. But I've been working on myself, and I think I understand now what I threw away. I'm not asking you to take me back. I know that ship has sailed. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and I hope you can find it in yourself to forgive me someday. It was a good apology. Probably the apology I'd wanted to hear 6 months earlier. I appreciate you saying that, I told her. And for what it's worth, I do forgive you. I think you were scared and confused and handled it badly, but I don't think you meant to be malicious. Thank you, she said, and started crying a little. That means more than you know. But here's the thing, Jessica. Even if your apology is completely sincere, and even if you've really learned from this experience, it doesn't change the fundamental issue. When you were faced with a choice between me and the possibility of someone better, you chose the possibility of someone better. That's not something I can unknow or unfeel. She nodded. I understand. I just hope whoever you're with now knows how lucky she is. She does, I said. Because I'm with someone who's sure about me,